It's January 23rd, 2023. I'm watching CBS this morning, some more parts of it that I didn't catch the first time. There's a new Michelle Gellar TV show. Again, I don't know if it ties back the reference anyhow with names of specific parallel dimensional, like real things that happen with whatever sent me to the hospital while I'm asking for an NSA rep and they deny me completely. But yet someone from, I think it was Beijing, shows up and sits at my bedside. I don't know if it's sense of allegiance or if that's who's researching in like aerospace crimes what potentially breached my personal safety and security and caused the event that forced me into the hospital, for which I was asking for my personal kindred and national security rep and denied completely at Stony Brook University. So I'm watching this first piece, which is alarming in guerrilla warfare and guerrilla tactics, for which then I'm gonna go into the other room and ask Alexa, because I looked on Google and it should be pretty much the same definition as what is it. Again, guerra is the word for war in Italian. I saw that on one of the pieces of wall art that one of my ancestors left behind. It's like cave wall inscriptions at this point. I'm looking for signs of like, what did he want me to know that he didn't have English word for or American word for?
The first time in history, the four biggest American cities led by black mayors. And last week, before this California shooting, CBS Saturday Morning co-host Michelle Miller sat down with three of them: New York's Eric Adams, Karen Bass of Los Angeles, and outgoing Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. Collectively, they lead nearly 20 million people, and they spoke about the greatest challenges they face and also reflected on what this history-making moment means to them.
I'm proud that I'm the first, but I will be very excited to not be the last.
When former Congresswoman Karen Bass was sworn in last month as the first woman mayor of Los Angeles, it created another history-making moment.
Madam Mayor.
For the first time, black mayors are leading all four of the nation's biggest cities.
Why does you being in that role as an African American matter?
Well, it does demonstrate just how far we have come. And when you look at African Americans that are running cities across the country, progress has been made, but it hasn't been easy. But let me just say, it's one thing to get there. Right. You also have to stay there.
Houston's Sylvester Turner is entering his final year as mayor.
What lessons and what pieces of advice would you offer them?
Yes. Well, number one, we have a strong freshman class.
So should I be concerned by that very clear message? What about my children? Should they be fearing for their safety and future as well?
It requires a solid team. You can't do it by yourself. We must act because mayors have to produce. Right.
And that includes tackling some of the biggest challenges.
So does this look like, because to me, in concerns of my son and not knowing where my Adams 12 is, since the face of Adams looks very different and darker in the major cities, Is this them calling in reinforcements from third world nations that need very little whatever to get started and to like invade somebody else's homeland? Because that's what it looks like. I mean, I don't know what the driving force is, but the fact that they're bussing them in and then billing, it's part of guerrilla warfare, I just found out, and then billing and making the enemy pay the cost. Is that what they do when they're telling the federal government that they need assistance to fund some? I mean, like, this is the most ridiculous process. Why is this allowed to go on? Under whose authority?
Challenges facing their cities.
What's happening at the border, I think, is one major issue that everyone is facing: immigration.
Last year, roughly 40,000 migrants arrived in New York City, many bused there by the Texas governor.
It is overwhelming our infrastructure and our ability to give care to our taxpaying residents.
Just over a week ago, New York City Mayor Eric Adams traveled to El Paso, Texas, urging the federal government for more support.
No city should be going through this. Congress has an obligation, and the national government has an obligation that brings with the responsibility of dealing with this immediate crisis. This is...
You mean the crisis that you're forcing to go into some effect, harming those of us that don't want anything to do with this?
Is a crisis.
Wait, let's hear in his own words. What is it?
Congress has an obligation, and the national government has an obligation that brings with the responsibility of dealing with this immediate crisis. This is a crisis.
Another crisis plaguing American cities?
A crisis they want the federal government to pay for in some like extortion technique. I mean, again, like, I'm just real curious. Is there like a Dear Abby? Like, there used to be a Dear Abby columnist. I'm in like the juvenile section, and there's no, like, I'm just in the baby carriage on the front lawn. Where's my big brother? Where's my hand to hold? Where's my... Psst, come here. I gotta ask you a question. I don't know where Dad is, but what's going on? Like, that doesn't exist for me here.
Homelessness. Bass has declared a state of emergency.
A couple of the root problems in Los Angeles is our inability to build housing. It takes so long, there's so much paperwork and bureaucracy and red tape, and so the point of the state of emergency was to say, we have to end that.
California has recently...
That's their side of the coin. Or, I mean, their abuse of, like, the generosity of strangers. And, like, what's here. Abusing what's here. In privilege. So, I'm just curious, like, how am I supposed to respond to this? Am I supposed to respond to this? Where's my big brother in, like, the adult canopy of the U.S. system that is supposed to, like, watch over the juvenile section? Where's my hand to hold? Where's my ladder to climb? So I can get to a platform where I can carefully speak with an adult, since I know clearly, no matter my chronological age, I'm still considered some form of a juvenile at best because of the other extenuating circumstances that surrounds my whatever in this area. Here's an interesting part there. She's like, I made a commitment at a very early age to, like, give their whole life to this cause of making themselves number one. I'm like, now where was my opportunity for the same and staying protected and being the marrying type and making sure that my person was respected and got to where I needed to be and the correct whatever father to father my children? Because whatever happened here under this cantilever is a real problem. Somebody just put up on Facebook, there was a cheetah holding on to a mother monkey and then a baby holding on to that monkey. So now, I don't know whether the parent was alive or not, but it does raise some very interesting concerns.
To address the impact of global warming.
Why is it such a top priority for you?
Well, in the city of Houston, I've faced 7 federally declared disasters in 7 years. Who are the people who are most impacted? They are the people that are living in our vulnerable, marginal communities because they find themselves in a constant state of need and recovery.
Reflecting on the life experiences that led them to where they are today, the trio pointed to their roots.
But who's allowing them to force crisis in order to schnook under some legality, to force the haves to pay for their ability to survive? But yet, I don't get the same level of security and care. How could that possibly be?
I grew up in the hood. I still live in that hood. Nobody has to tell me about what's not there. I see it every day. But I'm determined not to be the mayor of 2 cities and one of have and have-nots.
I made a commitment at a very young age that I wanted to devote my life fighting for social and economic justice.
We're sending a signal. Where you are is not who you are. Those who are sitting in jail right now know that your mayor was arrested. I'm living the...
My mayor was arrested. That's a real clear threat to my national security. That is huge alarming signs. I'm listening to them very clearly. I'm watching their visual representations for signs that I might be in danger, and they are sending every single sign. Where is my backup?
in the life of people who are going through what I went through. And that's why I can govern, to make sure they don't have to continue to go through it.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Michelle Miller.
You know, what I like about that story is that all 3 of them seem to be talking about reflecting on personal experiences that have helped them get to where they are. I love what Mayor Turner said. You know, it's one thing to get there, it's another thing to stay there.
Yeah, well, all these big national American problems we face are for them local problems. They've got to solve them.
And they're of the people. Said I grew up in the hood, and I'm still in the hood. That's for sure. All right, ahead.
Now, here's the Sarah Michelle Gellar part. I did not watch her as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I heard such a thing existed, but I stay out of the faces and the causes that I have no clear whatever about. I'm just juvenile on this. But there is definitely adult prowess going on. First being Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then it leading into something called a wolf pack.
Maintaining a normal social life as a slayer is problematic at best.
This is the 90s, the 1990s in point of fact, and I can do both. Clark Kent has a job. I just want to go on a date.
Well, I suppose it was a fairly slim lead.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And look, I won't go far, okay? If the apocalypse comes, beat me.
Wow. Sarah Michelle Gellar got a lot of experience protecting the world from evil as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You remember that? For 7 seasons she was on the air. Now we're happy to tell you Gellar is back on TV screens, and the series is called Wolfpack. It's on Paramount Plus, which, like CBS, is a division of Paramount Global. We like that. She's a member of the family. Gellar plays Kristen Ramsey, an investigator is trying to get to the bottom of a new supernatural danger that emerges during a wildfire. What is happening here? Take a look.
So they're classifying what happened to me as a wildfire of some sort before this very specific, I time traveled. I time travel consistently from when I arrived in 1978. Again, I'm the embodiment of time, and so is my son. We have a very special piece. So now I time traveled from 1978 The destiny was rearranged. They call it sin, by the way, S-I-N. When you have a trajectory and it's pulled off by some asymmetrical whatever. In my instance, it looks like guerrilla warfare. They call it sin. So now my equidistant points of entry for which I cosmic and cosmetically brought in children through a Stargate into this dimension after I already time traveled waiting for the correct journeyman, but never showed up. I mean, showed up one day, one walk-on part, dangling a carrot in front of somebody and then withholding it completely. And so now here we are, and I'm fell into some black hole or some rabbit hole. I'm in the year 2023, and this is what they're alerting me on. After, somewhere in 2015, 2016, I entered some portion of the system that was world of hurt, that my actual Maori, or my actual human temple, was harmed by advanced weaponry and advanced equipment. The only words I have to explain this level of negligence that humans knew about and allowed me to go through some form of, I don't know what, punishment, as if living amongst this level of filth wasn't punishment enough.
That nurse?
No, but I can try to help.
Do you actually know anything? You're gonna waste my time.
I'm Investigator Ramsey with the LAFD.
Now, real scene is, I show up in the hospital without a badge, just to speak to the nurse, to ask the nurse for a national security phone number and rep. I wanted to know if they had emergency service protocols, if they had access in an emergency. Who did they have to call if I needed a consultation with a national security advisor? What transpired after that is, rather than then I get hit in the head with something that almost like I was having trouble speaking. I was not on any drugs. I had no alcohol in my system, just me, myself, and I. And something in the hospital hit me like a high frequency wave of some sort, for which I could barely speak, and I couldn't form my thoughts, because it's almost like my brain waves were being withheld from transmitting to my electrical system, my electrolyte system, metabolically. So the nurse on staff denies me access to a national security advisor. She admits she won't even let me leave. She admits me to the hospital, but they don't perform any kind of cerebral or stroke-related testing. They just leave me in a hospital bed, deny me access to a national security rep. They send in an endocrinologist. This is how disgusting they are. And then they have me seated upstairs with a Chinese, foreign Chinese person. She was not American. Not under any circumstance was she American. She announced herself as Chinese. And she sat by my bedside, called it security, for the evening. But she's not my nation. She's not my security rep. She's not even my kindred. I mean, I appreciate her. I spoke to her very respectfully. I appreciated the fact that she was sitting next to me. But I didn't authorize this. What I wanted was my Adam 12 rep. I wanted the person who held my son right out of the uterus when he arrived on his very special numerical prominence and providence. I wanted that person. Where's my national security rep? Because what was delivering my son looks more like a kindred than anything else on this planet. So I was withheld from that. They introduced and reassigned me to somebody else. I mean, I don't trust these people. I don't trust the person sitting next to my side of the bed. I don't know her from Adam. And I don't even have a big brother to ask, am I safe? I'm getting hit with advanced weaponry and equipment. My biological is malfunctioning. It's being tormented in the local area. And I've got the most ridiculous Mickey Mouse medical science school trying to tell me that it's a psychological disorder. I'm like, not on your life, and I hope that they come for all of you. You won't even make a call. You call in a foreign agent to sit on top of me overnight, and you won't even let a domestic national security rep be assigned to my person. There seems to be many levels of problems going on inside the United States of America as we speak.
Blunt instrument of the LAPD is Officer Chang. We're part of a joint task force investigating the wildfires. We're looking for anyone who came in recently that was injured on the freeway this morning, especially the kids who were on that school bus.
Yeah, we got one of them. Walked in on his own. Lane. Everett Lane.
Now, is that supposed to be like a Langley reference for CIA? I'm just curious. Again, it says Wolfpack and Paramount up there. I see they reference a black nurse. I had a white nurse. Just as fucking useless.
Why would the police want to talk to him?
Sarah Michelle Gellar, we're also happy to tell you, is an executive producer.
Now, this was on CBS this morning at 5 a.m. It's an artwork piece. To me, it looks like gorillas in the midst. I mean, that's how I would have probably arranged his artwork display. So it actually, guerrilla warfare is the motif, and it's on display inside, like, the city, just so this way the passerbyers with the mental dissonance and disconnect in the juvenile section of doesn't know what the hell's going on ever, because they don't even have like a real phone call to anything realistic, knows exactly what level of attack we're under at this late in the game.
CBS News' Dave Carlin introduces us to Derek Adams and his bright and joyful art.
In his Brooklyn studio, artist Derek Adams is brushing on colors that pop.
Some of the images were inspired by family photographs.
With bold humor and delicate insight, he celebrates the joys of New Yorkers who navigate densely packed lives. And he shows us the unexpectedly tranquil places and moments that we manage to root out of chaos.
I was thinking about the idea of inside, outside, and combining the two.
Adams was given this vast public exhibition space, all of Penn Station's main rotunda on its upper level. It's a first for any artist to get this much real estate at Penn. What Adams adds is nature. Lots of...
You say at Penn? As in Penn Research Facility? Excuse me. Mark, my family member, Nicholas, whatever name we're going by at the moment, just the two of us. Where did my family member go that has the register and the pen for the checkbook? So this way I'm taken care of as he was. And so my life doesn't wind up like it has. Just curious, what happened to that level of security from Lloyd Harbor Elementary? Where did that level of assurance go?
Green offsets the gray of Penn, and peeking out at us characters we recognize as our neighbors and ourselves.
It's almost like the people in the works are in transition as well, and they're kind of moving in and out of this kind of like really dense space. The idea that density could also be pleasurable.
Adams' hometown is Baltimore, and he has lived in New York City since 1993. Traveling back and forth made him very familiar with Penn Station. He says doing...
Who gave him access to AMTRAK and PENN at station inside of New York City. I'm just curious. At like federal and national level, I'm curious. Because as a juvenile, I need to find my adult canopy to make sure that I report this properly for my national security and my children's national security, since that's also been somehow compromised or harmed because of all this other nonsense that's going on for childish reasons. Now, the only flag I've ever been given is this one. Only one that they've said. I mean, my ancestry, my heraldry, comes with these two. Those are the two grand ancestors that I had. And then this is what was produced when I arrived, which my other sons had. My youngest son is not, I mean, I have this at home for him, but the school doesn't even have this up any longer, and I don't know why. Alexa, what is guerrilla warfare? Alexa. Alexa, what is the definition of guerrilla warfare?
Guerrilla warfare is usually defined as the use of hidden-run tactics by small, mobile groups of irregular forces operating in territory controlled by a hostile, regular force.
Right, on Google, it goes in a little bit more specifics. It says something about, something about a paramilitary that then makes the enemy, and again, it depends on the sides of the story. I mean, makes the enemy pay for its installation. I don't know the exact word, if it's installation or for its whatever while it's there. I mean, again, I've been in a baby carriage on the front lawn as a juvenile. I don't know where Adams 12 and Gannon and Friday are. For the ancestors left me some form of Game of Thrones or like stepping stones as some kind of shield maiden. I don't know. But I don't know how to like say, excuse me. There's some real serious problems and I don't know how to address these. And then there's other layers of problems that have erupted with the lack of medical care, or the version of medical care that I'm now receiving intermittently, and the answers that should be very clear to a professional doctor, but even though they accept my health insurance and I go to these people, they're like cognitively dissident of what's wrong, and they're not even like giving me the avenues or the whatever I need, which I don't even have word construct for, in order to solve the issues as they seem to be getting worse. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.